This is Horror Sucks. My name's Carter, and I'm back from my time abroad. This is Horror Sucks, and I'm Carter, and I'm back from my time abroad. And with me is Janel, a fellow soldier in Christ's Army. Janel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Janel.
Ashley was supposed to record a couple of episodes so we'd have a backlog going, but she didn't, and that meant that we are recording them now. I just got to watch Ian and Ashley record an episode, and I just sat there quietly eating, and now it's me and Janelle, and she got to pick the movie. So what are we watching?
We are watching Straight Outta Nowhere, Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Hell yeah. A bit of actual backstory. Janelle and I used to be in a youth group at a nearby church, went to the same high school. At one point, we were playing ping pong, and my sister was doing a really janky Connect game, and you decided to photobomb her or something, and then got hit in the face with a ping pong ball. And that has just one of my core memories.
Yeah, that is a pretty core memory.
And Janelle's also one of our biggest supporters.
Yes.
So we're happy to have you on.
I'm happy to be here.
Last time you were here was for the murder mystery, right?
Yes.
Where you were Soul the Ghost.
I was the ghost.
Yes.
And I just wore a sheet that I covered with red stuff.
I was Dracula, but like Boomer Dracula, if I remember correctly.
Yes. You were like Boomer Dad Dracula, but also like kind of hip.
Yeah.
You had like a handlebar mustache. And
yeah. I mean, that's just par for the course. Yeah. With murder mysteries, you gotta wear a mustache. Yeah. During COVID, we were all dealing with our own little meltdowns. I grew out my mustache, and eventually when we had a murder mystery, I wore a fake mustache on top of that. So that's my...
I like that.
It's peak humor wearing it.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Peak. So, I felt like I was pushing it when we watched Scooby Doo Zombie Island and called it a horror movie. So, I'm just fully washing my hands of this. I never claimed this was a horror movie.
It's definitely... I don't know. It's pretty spooky.
I will actually say it was quite spooky, considering.
It's Courage the Cowardly Dog. That shit is terrifying.
Yeah. So have you seen Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Oh yeah, I used to watch it. I think the first time that I watched it was I was probably like 10 years old, so I was still old enough to kind of not be scared by things, but it came on the TV super late at night, and it was one of the older episodes, so it was like extra freaky, and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, this is kind of great, even though it's terrifying. Yeah. So I recently started like rewatching it because now they're streaming it.
And it's HBO, no less.
Yep. Yep. But it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fan. I did not watch it as a kid, okay. And it was kind of alarming having my first exposure being this Scooby Doo thing.
Oh, you'd never seen it before today?
Oh, well, I mean, I watched it yesterday, but yes.
Oh, wow.
Before now.
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised.
I watched, I think, the first episode afterwards just to figure out what the show...
What was going on.
What was a reference to the show and what was the movie. It was the rich guy died and his shadow started scaring them. Very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one, but it's classic.
Yes. So I feel like I had a story, because I haven't been on this podcast in like 2 weeks, but it escapes me. Oh yeah, I remember. So I was in Portugal with my sister, and we were walking, and we passed this group of Portuguese people about our age, just chain smoking cigarettes. And we walked by, and I smoke from time to time. I wasn't like judging them or anything, but I was just thinking out loud. I was like, I wonder why it's so popular in Portugal. I know it's Europe, but why? Surely they've also had anti-smoking campaigns, right? And my sister just goes, well, it's way healthier than vaping. And I just kind of like negative sim interaction over my head. I just didn't respond to it.
Yeah.
I was like, that can't be true, Maddie. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there's no way that's right.
It's definitely not right, but I mean, Vaping is also not much better than smoking regular cigarettes. So.
And this was Europe, so none of the cigarettes had filters.
No, it's...
Not that I think that improves it, but...
No, it's just full-on tobacco and tar and carcinogens you're ingesting into your lungs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good old Europe.
How does that work with pre-rolled cigarettes? Like, back in the old day, like cowboy era, when you rolled your own cigarettes, that made sense, because then when you got down to the butt, you would just put it in the next cigarette. How does that work with any smokers? Please tell me, because I'm curious.
I don't smoke, so I'm definitely not the one to ask.
Yeah. I remember back when I was in college, someone offered me a Juul, and it took me a while to realize there was nicotine in it.
Oh no!
I was just like,
what did you think it was?
Vapor. I thought it was water.
Just
vapor.
Water. Flavored water.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do they have one that like isn't nicotine so people can feel like they're vaping?
I do actually think they have
like just straight up water.
Yeah, what do you call it? They have cigarettes like that where it's a mix of tobacco.
Oh, the Kiwis.
Yeah, where it's I don't know if Kiwis specifically, but they have some
Kiwis are THC, I think.
Okay.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Well, there's one where it's a I guess, actually, I think the filter gets longer, so it helps you quit. I believe they have a similar thing with Juuls, where it has far less nicotine, so that you can wean yourself off it.
This episode brought to you by Big Tobacco.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. Yeah, there's no smoking in this movie. I'm not really sure how we ended up here. So, just to give you a rundown of this movie. Not this movie, excuse me. Of this podcast. The way we do things. Usually Ashley's here, but we are getting divorced. So...
You didn't tell me.
Yeah, I know. We're not gonna choose our fans, though, don't worry. So... We're going to do a plot summary. That's going to be me this episode. We're going to do some fun facts. That's going to be Janel. And then both of us are going to tell you the good, the bad, and the spooky parts of this movie, eventually culminating in a rating that both of us have not shared with each other and is going to be a surprise. So with that, you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the movie takes place in a cartoon world, and it's the Scooby Doo gang just doing a routine unmasking of this clown burglar guy, and Shaggy and Scooby take a selfie with him because they're doing this self-help book on how to stop being afraid, and it said to do one thing that scares you every day, which is pretty good life advice. But there's this strange noise, and it causes Scooby to dance, and in my notes I wrote down, develop a mental illness. He, was clearly agitated, and then he couldn't understand the people talking to him. And he sprints off, and they're like, uh-oh, family emergency. Meanwhile, in nowhere, Kansas, the same thing is happening to Courage the Cowardly Dog. I don't know if Kansas is canon, but it's... Do you know? If it's canonically in Kansas?
It's in Kansas.
Okay.
It's not a real place in Kansas, though. Yeah.
Right. So Scooby runs all the way to Kansas, literally on foot, and the gang follows him in the car, and he eventually reaches Courage's house. When they arrive, they're attacked by giant cicadas, which they eventually manage to kill. And the gang meets Muriel and Eustace, who, for those who aren't familiar with Courage the Cowardly Dog, are Courage the Cowardly Dog's, I'm just going to call them Courage's owners. And Eustace is like a grouch, but Muriel's the sweet one. And Courage is always like, the things I do for love to protect Muriel, because he loves Muriel. Eustace, I don't know if he ever is shown to beat Courage, but it's definitely implied.
He's not nice to him.
Yeah. He intentionally scares him. So they're just invited for dinner with the mayor. It was a very abrupt transition. So they're like, man, these cicadas are bad. Anyway, so they're talking to the mayor. The mayor's describing the strange history of nowhere, which I don't believe is explained in Courage the Cowardly Dog. But it's like, strange things happen here. I believe they actually say it takes place outside of a military base.
In the show?
In this movie.
Or in this movie,
yeah.
There's some sort of military testing grounds or something.
Yeah, because I remember the fan theory is that it's purgatory, right?
There's a lot of fan theories.
I mean, they're all iterations of like so-and-so's dead the whole time.
Yeah. I think the best one is that like none of these things are actually that terrible or happening, but Courage, the way he is, just imagines everything to be so terrible and just is constantly just anxious and trying to make things better, even though nothing's actually wrong.
I mean, from what I know about dogs, that's about right.
Yeah, exactly.
Them losing it over every squirrel they see.
Yeah.
So they have a whole museum about the town. I don't know if you've ever been to like a local museum. I know Andover has one. I've never been.
We do?
Yeah, we do. And we have a gift shop too.
What are they selling?
Mostly just shirts that say Andover on them.
I want one of those.
Never been. I have no idea what's in there other than those shirts because they're hanging in the...
Oh, the one that's like right downtown?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So they're going to what had to have been a really shitty local museum. And Eustace is mad because Scooby, Shaggy, and Courage split off to go get food. And Eustace is a grouch, and he's like, I wanted better food. I'm just going to go home. So the cicadas start to attack while they're in the museum, and the gang ends up falling down a secret pathway where they discover a machine emitting a strange frequency and randomly dialing telephone numbers. Meanwhile, Courage, Shaggy, and Scooby are being chased by the cicadas. They do a whole bit where they dress up in exterminator outfits and the cicada runs in and they're like, you're not even wearing your clothes. And they trick the cicada into becoming an exterminator. And it's like doing sit-ups and it's like, the only good bug is what? It goes, dead bug! That was some gold. I loved that. And they end up finding the pathway and fall on the machine and destroy it. But not before a couple of people have been called. So all those people just show up to Eustace's house and just give him money. There's a whole dance and song number that I just didn't care for.
No, it's so bad.
And on their way back, the entire gang is kidnapped except for Scooby and Courage. So they go up to the computer that's in the house. They plug in Velma's iPad, and the iPad and the computer talk to each other. And they end up realizing that the strange effects of nowhere is due to a dark matter meteor, implied to be the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, which landed there in the dead center of the U.S., even though we're pretty sure it was the Yucatan Peninsula, but whatever. So they tunnel and end up finding their friends trapped in the cicada nest. They free them. Long story short, there's a battle between the Queen Cicada and Courage. Courage manages to conquer his fear with the help of Shaggy and Scooby's self-help book and uses the dark matter for various magic purposes. He ends up defeating the cicada, where eventually it's revealed that the cicada is a robot piloted by longtime villain Katz and the duck LeQuack. Sorry, no. The cicada is a drone piloted by those two who are inside of a mechanical mare. Mm-hmm. And then they were just doing that to steal money. And the only reason they were delivering it to Eustace was just to have it all in one place. And the cicadas were just trying to distract the gang. And then that was that.
Makes so much sense.
This was a 78-minute movie. This was so fast.
Yeah, it was very quick. It's a nice quick watch.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay, so why don't you give us some fun facts?
Okay, if you can believe it, there's not many fun facts, but I mean, the movie was released in September of 2021, and it was the last film of Thea White, who is the voice of Muriel. She passed away July of 2021, so that's kind of sad.
Yeah. She was the original voice in the show,
original
right?
voice, yeah. So Courage and Muriel have the same voice actors. Eustace's voice actor was different.
I believe Eustace's voice actor died.
Yeah.
And was replaced.
Yes.
And then that guy died.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I remember they gave 2 dates of death when describing it. And I have to imagine it was 2 people then.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely 2 people then. But yeah, the voice actor was not the original Eustace. The original premise for the movie was from like 2019. This past summer I went to a con and I met the voice actor for Courage, and I asked him about this, and he was saying that like they kept going back and forth of whether or not they were actually going to do it. And it like, I think they went on for like a year trying to figure out if it was going to happen, because the original series creator, John Dilworth, was not actually involved in the making of this movie. Mm-hmm. So that's another fun fact. The filming location that is listed as like the filming location of the movie, this animated movie, is
by definition there's no filming,
is Nowhere, Kansas, USA, nice. Which is not a real place. Right. And I looked it up. I was like, is there actually a Nowhere, Kansas? There is not. Mm-hmm. And then I think the last fun fact that I have is that in the final battle scene with the spoilers, with the
we already said the plot.
With the queen cicada, they use a Godzilla scream from one of the Godzilla movies.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that they took that. So that's all I have.
Yeah, nice. All right, so let's get into the good. The good. Dun dun dun.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. The pest control bit was just classic Scooby Doo. It was so hilarious. Good. I loved it. Yeah. Anytime that they dress up, it's always really funny. Mm-hmm. Like, classic is when they dress up as waiters, seat the villain. They're sitting there and they go to serve him and they throw the dish in his face and run away. That's a classic.
Yeah, I had that on my list too. Yeah. It's too good.
Have you seen the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo?
I have not.
Okay, well, despite its name, there's only 12 ghosts. Long story. Rather not get into it. But there was a really great bit where they're like, the police are going to kick down the door and arrest them or something. And they're like, you got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, and they start counting down with them, and they kick down the door. They're like, 1, boom, and they all go, Happy New Year! And they like put party hats on them and just leave.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's just, love that. Whenever they do a bit in Scooby-Doo.
Whenever they dupe them.
Yeah.
So good.
And especially then they're like, wait a minute, it's not midnight, it's 6:45, and August.
I like the pest control, because they got him to like spray pesticide everywhere. It's just like, he has no idea what's going on. I don't know.
At one point he sees himself in the mirror and tries to exterminate himself. Yeah.
And is unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. I liked, there is a scene kind of after the gang gets to Courage's house where they're all in the kitchen eating cookies, and the gang and Muriel are having a conversation, and then Scooby and Courage just start fighting this hairy monster that comes out of the sink that was clogging the drain. And it was just very Courage that it's just like, again, no one really knows what's going on outside of these 2 dogs that are just casually like a foot away from everyone else having this battle with this monster that just came out of nowhere.
I believe that had no connection to the main plot either.
No,
it was just a monster they ran into.
Exactly. That there were a few times that happened, and that was the only one that I was like happy about.
This is probably more a compliment to Courage the Cowardly Dog in this movie, but I loved Courage's scared faces. Is they did something new every time. Mm-hmm. One time he like screamed and a bunch of eyes popped out. It was one time his face disappeared. He opened his mouth, screamed, and his face was at the end of his tongue. It was just weird stuff, but
yeah, that is very, very Courage. That even just the ways he gets himself out of like situations he ends up in. Like there's one, I don't remember what happened, but he essentially was stuck somewhere, and he took his skeleton out of his skin.
That's messed up.
And his skin just like sinks through whatever he was stuck in, and he just puts his skeleton like back in his skin.
Jesus.
Like, yeah, it's crazy shit like that. But his, I think every single one is different too.
Yeah.
So they come up with a different one for every time he gets scared, and he gets scared a lot.
And it's very creative. I quite like it. They're not just like different faces.
No, it's some weird thing.
Yeah.
I liked, personally, since I have watched a lot of Courage, I liked a lot of like homage to the old episodes. Like there were a bunch of the villains that you would see, not just in the museum, but like even in the beginning, there would be like little snippets of characters, or like the TV playing in the background is always some weird like black and white like live TV show and things like that. So I really appreciated that they really kind of meshed the two worlds together like they did. Like they were still in Nowhere doing the stuff that they would do in a Courage episode, while also like plenty of Scooby Doo themes coming through. Like I liked that a lot.
I do think this movie might have been better because it was originally planned to be a episode on either What's New Scooby Doo or Guess Who.
I think, yeah.
Guess Who Scooby Doo. I think it would have been better as that because it was so long that they had to establish like rules of the universe and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was just an episode, no one would have cared.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I thought the self-help book was probably one of the most iconic Scooby-Doo like character arcs I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, is they're just Shaggy and Scooby trying to be brave, and they're not succeeding at the self-help book. And eventually when they need to get brave, Shaggy's like, here's the thing, man. Bravery isn't not being scared. It's action in the face of fear. And that's, first of all, really good advice. Second of all, really good way to preserve the character. Like, they're no longer afraid anymore.
Yeah.
But it definitely recontextualizes them. They're not the scaredy cats anymore.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I felt like if it was in a better movie, that would have been like very critically acclaimed.
Yeah. I like that they got scared of the self-help book at one point, or the app, that it was like making them freak out.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. I liked the ongoing trope of Muriel having riddles and Velma not being able to figure them out. And she could be, I don't know. She was like, I'm smarter than this. I'm like, I should know these. And Muriel's just this old lady, and she's like, oh, like you're plenty smart. Don't worry about it. I learned these when I was, a wee lass in the old days or whatever.
Great Depression.
Yeah. So I liked that, and that eventually she got one. So it was good.
I thought the scene in which they plug the computers in and then the computers literally talk to each other. Yeah. I thought that was gold. I don't know why more shows haven't just straight up stolen it, because that was hilarious that they were talking.
In the show, the computer was a pretty frequent character. That's where Courage would get all of his information on what he was supposed to do, or like of some animal or creature that was in town that day.
Do you think Courage is one of those dogs that can smell Alzheimer's?
Oh, 100%.
That's probably why he's so stressed out. He knows both of them are going.
Yeah, they're not in a very good situation.
It's like, they live alone.
They live alone in the middle of nowhere if something goes wrong.
The beat up old pickup truck. The ambulance won't get here in time.
That was so sad. That poor truck. I will say, I think I snorted laughed when they were getting into the truck and it was supposed to be Eustace in the driver's seat, and it was just a giant cicada. I was like, wait, what? Where did this come from? And then they had the whole car chase.
I have more on that later.
Okay.
So that was, I'm all out of good.
The only other one that I will say, because I have to, is there were lots of good teeth shots. I love me some teeth.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to... Your qualification is you are a world-renowned teeth burglar.
Yes, yes. I am a dental student.
A tooth fairy, if you will.
Yes, I'm a tooth fairy.
But what makes Janelle's work unique is that she does not wait until you lose the teeth. She'll take them from you.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah. There's no sport in it if they're already out.
You pay me for it.
Every time someone leaves, do you just like laugh at them? They paid me to take out their teeth. I would have done it for free. I would have paid them.
I will eventually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember what I was going to say, because it's thematically relevant. I have spent 3 of the past 3 days at the dentist because...
So you've spent the past 3 days
yes.
at the dentist?
So through a series of wacky misadventures, I lost my retainer.
Oh, no.
And because... my doctor will be like, you shouldn't drink as much. I'll be like, okay. But if my dentist is like, you need to sandblast your teeth every night, I'll be like, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Really?
I don't know why.
Good for you.
I just listen to my dentist. I guess teeth freak me out, but I'm like, yeah. I floss. That's how bad it is. So...
most people don't.
Yeah, so that my dentist said, you have to wear this retainer forever. I'm like, yes, I'll do that. So I go to get it replaced. They do that impression, which is my least favorite thing.
It's awful.
It's like gives so much room around your teeth, but then they jam it onto your jawbones, and that hurts.
It all just goes down the back of your throat.
Yeah, and like, so they do that, and I'm like trying to breathe through the smallest amount that the gel allows. I'm like, just totally zen, trying not to gag and throw up because it's like running down my throat. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, she's trying to get it all over my face too.
Yeah.
And so she does that. She does it with the other side. I'm like, okay, great.
They have fun with it.
Yeah. It was raspberry flavored. Actually wasn't that bad.
Nice. It's a good flavor.
Yeah. They had something awful, like root beer.
Oh, no.
I was almost curious, but... So I'm like, okay, great. I'll be back tomorrow. And I drive home, and they're like, we need you to come back in. We fucked up one of them.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I can't come back in today. And they're like, then you're going to have to come back in tomorrow. And I go, and then the day after, right? Because then I need my stuff.
Yeah.
And then they didn't respond. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Did you get your retainers?
I got half of my retainer.
Okay.
They took the thing. Again, comically smeared my face with paste.
Mm-hmm.
Come back the next day, and I got it. And I'm just so ready to be done with it.
Yeah. It is. It is a pain.
I remember it was a weird part where I was like worried I would need a mask because it's a medical thing and I didn't have one on me. And I walk in and the receptionist isn't wearing it.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
So I'm like, oh, okay, good. I guess I don't. And then I come in the next day and she was wearing one. And I was like, uh-oh, do I need one? And I come back in the third day and she wasn't again. I was like, what was it? Like a special on Tuesdays?
On Tuesdays, we wear masks.
Yeah. Is it a fashion thing? All right, so I'm done with teeth talk if you're ready to talk about the bad.
We can talk about the bad.
All right. The bad. My biggest issue with the bad is that outside of Courage, Shaggy, and Scooby, the character arcs were kind of nonsensical. Velma not knowing the riddles was just bizarre. There was nothing to get over. She just didn't know some of the riddles and knew one of them. Wasn't like she was insecure about her intelligence and learned to get over it or something. Then Fred and Daphne had this whole weird thing about the Mystery Machine getting renovations. That went nowhere.
Yeah.
Boo. But yeah, the character arcs were just not well thought out, which is crazy because the Scooby, Shaggy, and Courage was outstanding.
Yeah, no, it was that they had a very good solid storyline and arc there. Mm-hmm. But no, I agree with that. Me personally, I wish Scooby didn't talk so much. Like, he has so much dialogue and it's like too clear and I'm just like, what is going on? I'm not supposed to be able to understand what he's saying. And I think that, like, I liked that he was more than just a dog, but like, I don't know. I feel like it kind of took away the same feeling I guess, but
it's really difficult because Scooby and Courage both kind of fill the same role as they're funny in that they both clearly speak. They speak but are hard to understand. Scooby Doo in that every word he says is difficult to understand. Courage in that 90% of the time he's like,
yeah.
and then we'll say a full complete sentence.
Yeah.
So they both fill that same role, which is tricky.
Yeah.
And Shaggy was a good character there because he's kind of plays the role of the translator.
Yeah.
But they did step on their each other's toes quite a bit.
A little bit.
You know what I think it should have been? I think they should have hated each other.
Really?
Yeah, and then their character arc would be realizing how similar they are. Just because then...
Coming together.
Yeah, they spent so much time together that they were essentially replaceable. Whereas if Courage was like talking dog, he's gonna try to steal Muriel, and Scooby Doo.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah, if they were kind of at each other and had to work together, especially at the end when they were the last two around, that would have been... I would have liked that.
And that's when they really needed to be like, we have to put our differences aside and save our friends.
Because then Shaggy would have been like the universal translator, and now he's gone. And then the dialogue wouldn't have been as intense from both dogs.
I think it's your turn.
Okay. I put the cast. That doesn't really seem fair.
The cast?
Yeah.
Like the voice actors?
Yes.
So I had two of them on my bad list.
So I love Mindy Cohn, but she didn't do her best this one. Like, have you seen Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated? Her as Velma then was outstanding. Is kind of like grouchy about how smart she is almost. I don't know how to describe it, but I liked that quite a bit. But she was kind of trying to replicate Velma from the past, which to me wasn't as interesting a character.
And it wasn't like all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, you know what? I guess that's my only issue because they had Matthew Lillard, Gray Griffin, Frank Welker. So, I guess my complaint is just, man, I hate Mindy Cohn. She's my favorite Velma, I just want to say. So
I would say, going off of that, the Eustace voice is not 100% there, and it kind of bugs me. But there's not really anything they can do about that, unfortunately. And what's her name? Gray Griffin.
Gray Griffin, Daphne.
Whenever I hear her voice, I can only picture Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents.
Was she Vicky?
Yeah, she's
really?
Vicky.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
oh,
and
fun.
so I can always no matter what she does, because I know she does so many different voices, but it always just brings me back to Vicky.
I'm gonna have to listen for that. I didn't know that actually.
Especially when she yells. There was one scene. I don't remember what it was, but I think she was shouting more. I think she was yelling at Fred for something, and I was just like, "Oh my god, it's Vicky!"
She called him a twerp.
Pretty much.
One of my earliest memories was getting in trouble because I called Maddie a moron because it's a word I learned from Fairly Odd Parents.
Really?
Yeah. They called Cosmo
funny.
a moron.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's just an affectionate, idiot. And I got yelled at. And I'm like,
you called your sister an affectionate.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't upset.
How old were you?
Old enough that I should have earlier memories. I was 6.
Okay. So she also didn't know what it meant.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Can we both agree that the Eustace rap montage was just awful?
I hated it.
It was so bad. And it was so unnecessary. It's what is going on?
I wonder if I can find the lyrics online.
It's for all of you listening, if Eustace wasn't already just so terrible, there's just this too long rap montage of him without a shirt on and gold chains and rings and just this, you can barely even understand what he's saying.
The name of the song is Straight Outta Nowhere,
which is the name of the movie.
Which viewers paying attention to the date might notice that it is well past when it was relevant to make Straight Outta Compton jokes. So here's the lyrics. I'm a well-to-do dude, 100% freaking nightmare, like a bank tycoon or the president, see if I care. Cause I got more green than a tree, like a cash machine or casino. I'm a VIP taking charge, living large with the bourgeoisie out of nowhere. Honest to God, reading these lyrics, it's not bad.
No,
that sounds actually pretty cool. It was just how he did it.
Just how it was done is just not good.
All I hear is ka-ching when the doorbell rings, walking on air. I got everything in the world on strings, plus a sweet chair. I'm a big bad bling, reigning king of the kings, out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. This is actually pretty good. Now there's just the lyrics. I kind of love that.
If it was done in a different context.
Yeah,
maybe.
if someone else sang.
Someone else.
I'm actually going to move this to the good. I like that song. Come to think of it, that was a pretty good song.
Lyrics good, everything else no.
Yeah. I want to say this is bad, but it was actually a good thing. The movie was 78 minutes long. Mm-hmm. No good movie is 78 minutes long, but circular logic. Because I'm happy that it's 78 minutes long, because this movie wasn't good, because it was only 78 minutes long, and then we just get into a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 more.
Okay.
How many do you have?
You
can do however many you want.
I didn't care for the ending where the meteor was the thing causing it, because it didn't really make sense in the Scooby Doo lore. I didn't love that they were walking distance from nowhere. The movie
running distance.
Yeah,
he ran.
They tried to combine the concepts of Scooby Doo as people in costumes and Courage is real entities, and it just was the worst of both of them.
It didn't work. You're talking about the very end when it's the mayor is actually Cats and LaQuack. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Then they try to pull off his mask and nothing comes off, which is again, this came out in 2021. Mm-hmm. That joke has been done to death of, wouldn't it be funny if we tried to remove the mask and there wasn't a mask? Mm-hmm. It had been done to death in Scooby Doo universe. They've done that before, trying to pull off masks.
2002.
Yeah.
The live action Scooby Doo.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they did.
It was
the monster, the big giant monster. Velma's holding onto his ears and trying to pull his mask off, and then she was like, "Oh wait."
I thought the concept was terrible because 2021 is way too late for a crossover for both of these franchises.
Oh, I agree. It took way too long. It should have been done at least, maybe not 20 years ago, but at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely late in the game.
And it didn't make a ton of sense to have a crossover except on a surface level of these are both scared dogs. Mm-hmm. Is Courage plays a more protective role. Scooby Doo is plays a detective. He tries to solve these things. They're not, the concepts don't really mesh. Is one of them is always on defense, the other's on offense. And I suppose it could have made sense, but the movie just didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I think they didn't do Courage as much justice with this, because it was very much just he's trying to save people and carry Muriel around and whatnot, but in other episodes and stuff, he's had to figure out what he needs to do, so there's a bit of obviously not detective work, but he's goes to his computer to figure out, or he's making some sort of contraption. He turns himself into a helicopter. Things like that. But I can see what you're saying. It's not
perfect. So maybe that's just me not knowing enough Courage the Cowardly Dog.
But in this, they definitely didn't. They had him very much be scared, protective Courage rather than solving problems Courage. Mm-hmm. The whole scene with the monster chairs in the mayor's house, I did not like. Yeah,
that was bizarre.
Because again, it was very unnecessary, and I think they did it because they were trying to meet some sort of time point or something. Because it was just no, explanation for this. There was no reasoning, and then it was just like, oh yeah, come this way.
Random bad things happening.
Yeah.
It was just...
It's not usually that bad, but that was just like, yeah, it was just extra weird.
So Courage at the end had like this whole bravery arc where he stood up and fought the cicada single-handedly to protect Muriel. And it was just bizarre because it was treated like, Courage, you did this. You are brave now. When Shaggy and Scooby were the exact same, I remember writing, like, why does he have sole claim on this character arc? All three of them...
They all made really good progress.
Yeah, they all made...
They were so brave.
Good progress, the same progress. Yeah. They all had the exact same realization. Yeah. They're like, isn't that right, Courage?
Yeah, no, that's not fair.
Yeah. There was no, like, cold open. Usually they'll do them solving a mystery, and then either at the end of that or when there's the call to action for this mystery that the whole movie is going to be about, they'll run the credits. This didn't have that, and so the credits felt so out of place.
Yeah. No, that stands.
Yeah. I didn't care for Courage being able to speak fluently at times and unintelligible at other times. That's just a taste thing.
Yeah.
Watching the first episode, it's clear that that's his character. But
yeah, that always bothered me watching the show too. It just like he would just have these few sentences that he would say, and I'm just like, no, you shouldn't be able to talk, because if you can't say anything else, like, no.
It should follow some kind of a rule, right? Like what he has one line per episode that he can say in perfect English.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't do that, and that's kind of a bummer.
I feel like, I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly, because I remember being upset about it, but I think in the earlier, like the first season, he would usually have like one or two lines that were like his go-to lines, and one of them was like, the things I do for love. And like, that would be all he would say for the entire episode. But as you get like later and he's having like full-blown conversations, and it's just like, no, that doesn't work. I don't know who made that decision, but I did not approve.
Yeah.
And I still do not approve.
So there was a scene in which Scooby and Courage burrow down to the meteor, and it's like the cicada lair, and by this point it's playing the like dance music, and you see these silhouetted figures wrapped in web, which, by the way, I don't think cicadas do webs, but whatever. We're not gonna criticize that. And the characters are like being jerked around by the strings so that they're dancing. And from their silhouette, it's extremely clear that this is Muriel, this is Shaggy, and it's horrifying. It really is upsetting to look at.
Yeah.
In a really good way. But then it unsilhouetted them, it showed them, and it was like a realization like, wait a minute, this isn't scary, it's just Shaggy. And I was like, it being your friends is way scarier. This movie shouldn't have pretended like it was that unclear. Was okay. Yeah, like it was unclear who it was.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was just, they shot themselves in the foot a little bit there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
My note, this might be too harsh, but I just said, who wanted this? Is like in the year 2021, some fan of both Scooby Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog was like, let's put them together.
We wanted it 10 years ago.
It's just so indulgent that I honestly kind of felt embarrassed. It was like, it felt like those like Sonic OC stories that people write, where it's clearly just for them, and you're like, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You wrote this for you. I'm an outsider in this. That's how I felt.
Yeah, I remember when I saw that it was coming out, I was like, I was very much just like, wait, why is this coming out now? Why did this not come out a while ago? And I was like, I'll still watch it, but like, it's not right.
the Courage the Cowardly Dog fandom's really hurting on liquid funds right now.
So my last one, It has to do with teeth again.
Oh, good.
Or the lack thereof.
Oh, yeah, I know what this is.
When Eustace is eating a sandwich with no teeth, it drives me out of my mind. It's like, he shouldn't be able to do that. Why is he doing that?
He had these awful, like, tumor teeth.
Yeah, he has, it's just like full-on gums, but like with weird bumps and stuff. It is not pleasant.
I didn't see when he ate the sandwich, did it have that cartoon-like bite mark?
I didn't
if
notice.
So, that's actually kind of hilarious.
You know what?
I'm
gonna go back and look at it and see if there's.
I think I'm gonna do that too.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
All right. So before I get to my last bad, I would like to say one of the items on the good that I forgot is that this is streaming on HBO. So I typed in Scooby Doo Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I type S, and it goes, "Do you want to watch Sex in the City?" And I'm like, yeah, I do, actually. I really do.
I would rather watch that.
I would rather be doing that.
It's such a good show, though.
Oh, God, I love it. They had back-to-back episodes in, like, season 3 where the theme of one of them is, does bisexuality exist? And the theme of the one immediately afterwards is, can you date outside your race? And I'm like, this is like early 2000s. This is not like William Shatner being one of the first people to have an interracial kiss on TV.
Yeah, we should be past this.
Yeah. In New York, too.
Yeah, right.
In New York City. Really
these
struggling to make
problems.
progress there.
Yeah.
Famously close-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my last negative is there's this one butler guy who, it was like a reference to Young Frankenstein, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was Glockenspiel and Frau Glockenspiel, these scary Frankenstein-looking guys. And Glockenspiel kind of looked like Lurch from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Except he, like, had a limp and kind of had his arm tucked up. And he's like, follow me. Or he says, walk this way.
Walk this way, yeah.
Which, to be fair, is just begging for a joke to be made about that. And then he limps away. Mm-hmm. And Shaggy's like, don't mind if I do. And he just mimics the way this dude walks. And I'm like, this isn't a joke. You're just making fun of a disabled dude.
Yeah. Poor taste.
Yeah, I was like, this is very out of character, too.
Yeah.
They very rarely do that in the show, is like make fun of... They'll have people like that with limps and stuff, and they just don't make fun of their limb.
Yeah, especially coming from Shaggy, it doesn't really make any sense.
And none of them laughed too, which was easily the best part.
Yeah.
It was like your friend made a tasteless joke and everyone was just silent about it.
Yeah, no, we do not approve of this.
Yeah, that's messed up, man.
Yeah.
All right, so are you ready to talk about the spooky?
Let's do it.
Okay. The spooky! I loved the music, which I now know is directly from Courage the Cowardly Dog, where it's like, duh, duh, duh. That's so creepy.
Yeah.
It was terrifying, especially how Scooby was dancing to it.
How they would move to it, yeah.
Yeah, that was freaky.
Definitely freaky movements. Right off the bat, we started with a clown. I fucking hate clowns. And it is a creepy looking clown, so that to me was spooky.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
They just left him.
Yeah, they just left him tied up in rope in the front of a bank that he just robbed. Too good.
Then there's the scene in which Courage and Scooby are digging and the music is playing, and as they dig, they're doing this horrible dance. Mm-hmm. That was also really...
It just keeps getting worse and
that
worse.
That freaked me out a bit.
Yeah. I guess one of the things that you mentioned earlier I had on my spooky list was when they were like Scooby and Courage get down into like the cave or whatever, and everyone's like hanging from the ceiling, and just these silhouettes. It's actually terrifying.
It really is. And then they're moving.
And they're moving like to the music, and it's just that creepy dance that's going on. It's actually like really fucking scary.
I was like seething watching this movie because I think Ian took the DVD, but they just recorded Bone Snatcher, and I was like, could have been watching fucking Bone Snatcher right now. And then it's doing that, and I'm like, okay, actually, you know what? This is definitely a horror movie. This is terrifying.
That's why you don't let me pick things.
Yeah, I'm like, I do change my mind. This is freaking me out. So
yeah, that was...
Yeah. Do you have anything else on the spooky?
I have 2.
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it.
Do you have nothing else?
I'm all out, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of spooky.
Usually I'm pretty dry on the spooky.
On top of clowns, I also really don't like bugs, especially bugs that can fly. So a lot of the cicadas, when they would just like come crawling out of places, or like in the mayor's house, when there's that one that's like very quickly like scurrying through the hall of the mayor's house, I'm like, nope, nope, I don't like that. And they're just like swarms of these bugs, and they're all getting carried away. And yeah, that's they were kind of creepy to me. And I guess my last one on top of that was it shouldn't have. It's very like classic, supposed to be a jump scare kind of spooky, is when they're in the kitchen. Shaggy, Scooby, and Courage, and Eustace was there, and Eustace opens the closet door to try to find something, and it's Glockenspiel and the lady
Frau Glockenspiel.
Yeah, and then he like closes the door, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna let them take care of that and get spooked." And then when they open the door, it's a giant cicada, which is like you're expecting it to be something that it's not. And like when I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have been scared by that," but it still kind of scared me. That's all I have, because it's not particularly spooky.
Yeah, there were some more than your average Scooby Doo movie, I will say.
I think a lot of it, well, maybe not a lot of it was like Courage, but like just some of the animation is kind of creepy. Just like everything just looks kind of off, and then it just kind of has this like general feel of like something's not right.
So my overall thoughts on the movie was that it's very nostalgic and indulgent. I thought that it had some very good bones to a story, like the little things, the the quote unquote jump scares, the bits were all very good. It's just the general story wasn't great, and that's one of the easiest things to fix, is simply tell a different, better story. So it wasn't bad all the way. I just didn't care for the general plot. It was a little simplistic. I will say the beginning of the movie spends a lot of time establishing their knowledge of the franchises. Like, Shaggy gets in to drive the car, and Fred's just standing there, and they're like, "Oops, sorry, Fred." A lot of that, like, unspoken rules, but they say them out loud to make sure we know they know.
Yeah.
Which I thought was actually really interesting, because it was this weird snapshot in time from when, at the end of the pandemic, like, everything was moving away from digital releases, and every TV show ever needed that, like, what the characters were doing during COVID episode. And it kind of had a lot of the same vibe of, like, we made it through it, didn't we? And they're like, see, we watched Scooby Doo too. And I was like, this is just so bizarre that this came out in 2021.
Yeah. My overall thoughts and feelings, as both a Courage and Scooby fan, I was definitely part of the target audience. So I enjoyed it, but like kind of what you were saying earlier, I think it definitely would have been better as just like an episode to like a Guess Who, and again, maybe a while ago. Like, it was definitely very nostalgic for me, but overall it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't put it on my top watch list. But I did like that it stayed, I don't know, relatively like, especially for all the like the Courage aspects of it, it stayed relatively like true to the original like show. And I like that the original voice actors that were still around were able to do it, because
those that could did.
Yeah, those that could were there, because that's like, if you're gonna do, I don't know, a sequel or something, and you still have those people, you should definitely bring them. And I like that they were able to give those actors that opportunity again.
So my Ralph R. Bones memorial line highlight is Fred goes, hold the phone. There's a horrible, ugly monster driving that truck. And Muriel goes, call him Eustace, dear.
Yeah, that was one of the good ones.
Those jokes get me every time, no matter how telegraphed they are.
It's classic. Yeah. You can't go wrong. I had a really hard time picking a quote because there weren't a lot of very memorable quotes except some like puns, and I love a pun, but
there's 2 on IMDb, and one of them is the one.
Is that one? Yeah, because I was like, that is a good one, but I'm like, I want to pick one that's not that one. The only other one that I could think of was from the mayor when he was about to go do whatever. Like, there was a group that was going to the museum, and then Shaggy and the dogs were staying to eat, and the mayor was like, all right, I have a lot of mayoring to do. Don't forget to vote whenever that is. And it's just like, okay, this is just something weird. That was, I don't know.
I do actually like that.
Yeah, that was my second best one. Yeah.
All right, so hit me with the rating.
I give this movie 6 Scottish Dream cookies.
That's good. That's really good. I give it 6 Scooby snacks.
Nice.
Yeah.
I almost put Courage snacks earlier.
Oh my god, that would have been so funny.
Really funny. But then I was like, oh, they're not actually homemade.
Yeah. So I like, I don't know. I don't want to rate the movie too harshly because I feel like as someone who wasn't really a Courage lover, it's kind of like someone going into your childhood and going, this sucks. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like 6 is fair.
I think 6 is very fair. Mm-hmm. Solid rating.
Yeah. All right. So, you have anything to add? Any plugs?
Any plugs?
Yeah.
Floss your teeth.
Yeah, you have rival podcasts?
No.
As a dentist, don't you want people not to floss their teeth? Because then more teeth for you.
Well, I mean, obviously the goal is for people to be healthy and to have good oral hygiene and keep their teeth for as long as they can. So,
if morals weren't a thing, though, would you tell people? Like, just suppose you're a psychopath. Your only goal is to make money. Would you tell people not just to like eat all the candy they want?
Well, I already kind of tell people that now because I have a wicked sweet tooth, so like people call me out on it all the time. Like, you want to be a dentist and you eat so much sugar? And I'm like, as long as I brush my teeth and I drink water, it's fine. Yeah. It's like you can do the same. We learned about this in one of our classes, but there was like a report that came out a couple years ago that it's like flossing might not actually benefit you at all. And like, so I could be like, oh, well, there was this one study that said that like flossing doesn't really help. So like, yeah, you don't have to do that, but I wouldn't do that. But I do tell people that they can have sweets because I would be a hypocrite if I didn't. Take care of your teeth.
Yes. So with that, remember, if you lose a tooth, make sure you set out a sweet sacrifice for Janel. Otherwise, she's coming for all of them when she takes one of them.
I will take them all.
Yeah.
We need them.
The only thing Janel loves more than fresh, crunchy teeth is sweet foods. So
yep.
You must appease her in order for her to leave you alone.
He speaks the truth.
Yes. So with that,
I think we're good.
Stay spooky. You know what? Actually, no. You say stay spooky. With that,
stay spooky.
Nice. Horse Sex is brought to you by me.